Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bolt Action Reloading. If you're just getting started in reloading, or you just bought your first reloading kit, this video is going to be for you. Today we're going to cover the top 5 items that you're going to want to upgrade that actually did come in your reloading kit. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of the community here make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you get notified when I post new videos and you won't miss anything. Guys, if you're just getting reloading and you're wondering what tools you're going to need, this video is for you. Hopefully you caught my previous video that I covered the tools that you're actually going to need that didn't even come in your reloading kit. If not, I'm going to put a card at the end of the video and I suggest you go watch that video because that's going to cover items that didn't come in your reloading kit that you're still going to need to actually get started in reloading. In today's video, we're specifically going to cover tools that came in your reloading kit that you're probably going to want to think about upgrading once you've gotten used to them. Once you get a little bit into your process, you're going to find out that there's better tools out there, and some of these might speed up your process, and that's what we're going to cover today. Various reloading manufacturers sell some pretty nice kits. Some of them come with some slightly varying content. I don't think any of the kits really come with all of the tools you need, and some of the kits honestly have some questionable tools that will do the job that they say they will, but in the long run, you're going to wish you had at least a slightly different version of the tool that came with your kit. And that's what we're going to cover in today's video. If by some chance you haven't bought a kit, I do want to tell you when you guys are selecting your kit, make sure you actually are going to use the things that come in it. If you're not actually going to use some of the tools that came in your kit, don't think of that as a value. They're just going to be things that are sitting on your bench, and we don't want to sacrifice any space on our reloading bench if we don't have to, if it's not going to be used. Everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to pick the one that fits best for you. Regardless, likely tools that we're going to go over today are going to prove useful to you. My perspective is largely based from a rifle reloading perspective, but the large majority of what we discuss today will translate just fine over to pistol. If you're interested in any of the items that I'm going to talk about in today's video, I'm going to include affiliate links to Amazon for the applicable items. Some of the items aren't going to be available on Amazon. I'm just going to have to tell you guys a site where you can go get them. If you want to buy any of the items on Amazon, I do get a small piece of that transaction at no extra cost to you, and it helps support the channel. Let's clear off our bench and let's get on to our first item. Guys, one of the first tools that we're going to talk about is your hand primer system. Now, depending on the kit, you might not actually have even got a hand primer system with it. Hornady's come with it, and I don't want you guys to think this is a tear on Hornady style video. The reloading equipment they provide you is reasonable in the kit. It's going to get you started. It's just going to be my perspective. I did start with a Hornady kit. I've changed a lot of the items out, though some of them I still do use. That's a perspective I'm going to be going on from today. Even though I've loaded a reasonable amount of ammunition with the hand priming system from Hornady, the other priming system we're going to talk about today is the Frankfurt Arsenal hand priming tool. I actually have a video completely on this priming system that I'll link down in the description box below if you guys want to check out a more detailed description. But this is a very nice hand priming system. One of the interesting features is this dial wheel. This is a hard stop, which is going to keep you from pushing too hard on your primer. So once you get your setting in, that's going to help consistency between round to round. You also get a reasonable amount of leverage with this. Your hard stop is going to keep your primer seating as consistent as you can possibly be and still maintain a reasonable amount of leverage. The biggest downside that I will say to this whole system, and it's honestly, if you can call it a downside, when you're priming cases, it's natural to me, and maybe it's because I started the other primer to be loading from the top. Your Frankfurt Arsenal, because obviously gravity is going to pull the primers down, you're going to actually have to pull up when you're going to seat your primers. That's taken me a little bit to get used to, though overall I've had good luck with our priming system here, and I would certainly recommend it if you're looking to upgrade your hand priming tool. This system isn't really expensive, and I do think this is a huge step up over the priming system that comes with your kits. But if you like the one that comes with your kits, by all means, keep using it. There's a lot of systems that you can prime on the press. I've never been a fan on it with either with the Forster coax or my Hornady press. If you guys like it, by all means do that. Secret option number 2, which I don't have an example of, is there are some bench prime systems that you can mount. You have a little bit of arthritis and you don't want to work the hand primer. One of the bench prime systems might be the way to go, but I really don't have a good recommendation for that. But if your hand primer is what you're looking for, the Frankfurt Arsenal does a great job, and it's certainly my recommendation as far as an upgrade to your hand primer. The next item we're going to discuss is the Chamfer and Deburring tool. What you can see, this was the Chamfer and Deburring tool that was provided with my kit. It says 17 to 45 on it, and honestly, it works okay. I think some of the other kits actually come with ones that are not even as good as this one. You can see the brass remnants on it. I've used it quite a bit. Occasionally, I still pick it up and use it every now and then. but for not too much money, upgrading to something like the Lyman tool, this is going to give you a VLD chamfer tool. This tool also splits in half. You can unscrew it. Not only does it come with a chamfer and deburring tools, but it also comes with primer pocket scrapers if you're interested in those, and also these primer pocket reamers if you want to try and remove a military crimp with these. I'm not sure you're going to want to do very many of them, but if you've only got a couple crimps to remove, these can accomplish the task so you can reprime those military primed cases. For not a whole lot of money, you're getting a real upgrade to a much better chamfer and deburring tool, as well as getting some extra tools with it. For the money that this costs, I think it's well worth it, and certainly would be one of the things I would upgrade pretty soon after I got my kit and I got comfortable with reloading, or even before. After we've covered our hand priming tool and our deburring tool, one of the other things you might think about upgrading, and it's going to depend on the calibers you're loading, is the universal loading tray. Now, overall, honestly, I really don't have any issues with the universal loading tray by Hornady. If you get another kit, I don't know which one particularly comes with your kit. Usually they only come with one reloading block anyway, and unless you're going to only reload 50 pieces at a time, you're going to think about wanting to possibly get some more. And this is where there's honestly lots of options, and most of them are pretty inexpensive. The first option is 45 ACP. Honestly works great for a loading tray for most any 308 style case, so your 6.5 Creedmoors or any of those style cases, your 260 Remingtons. The 45 caliber loading trays is what I use very frequently when I have a lot of brass that's in process of getting reloaded. Depending on, again, what caliber you're using, you might be able to repurpose something you've used already. If you're shooting something very unusual though, like for example, this is 308 LAPO Magnum. The Frankfurt Arsenal Style 8, they have caliber specific loading trays. You're going to find that having a good loading tray, I'm not going to say crucial, but certainly a nice convenience of being able to have a nice reloading tray that actually fits your caliber and they're not rocking around too much. The universals do a relatively good job, but if you find that you're not happy with how your universal tray holds your brass, think about picking up some reloading trays that are caliber specific. Some of these cost only a few dollars and they work really well. I'll put some options in the description box below. A little bit of Googling is going to take you a long way to getting some very nice reloading trays. Just for one more quick option, Lyman also has like a bleacher block style block. If you're interested in that kind of thing as well, that are caliber specific, like this is 300 Winchester Magnum, so not the only case you can fit in here. If you like bleacher block style, I don't know if anybody else is doing that besides Lyman. There's lots of great options to upgrade your reloading trays, and they're not a whole lot of money. Guys, one of the other things that got brought up in my last video that I probably should have had in my essentials that didn't come in your kit, because I haven't seen a kit yet that comes with a bullet puller. These are not very expensive. The one I've got is the Frankfurt Arsenal Impact Bullet Puller. Essentially, it's just kind of like a hammer. You put your round in there, you can knock it against a hard surface, and you're going to be able to remove the projectile from your case. You're not going to want to do a whole lot of them with a bullet puller style like this, but if occasionally when you're setting up your dies, you might seat a bullet too far, you can use these to deconstruct your ammunition, pull it apart, or at least extend that projectile in there so it's at a safe overall length for your rifle. But it is something that's not too expensive that you might want to anticipate getting. Try not to use it as much as possible, but there are those occasions where you might need to tear a round apart. And this is going to do the job for not a whole lot of money. Certainly available on Amazon for not a whole lot of cash. If you're planning on having to deconstruct a whole lot of ammunition, Hornady makes some tools that you can actually add to your press. There's a handle that grabs a hold of the bullet and you use your press to pull it out. I haven't had to deconstruct that much ammunition, so I haven't invested in one of those yet. They do exist if you end up loading a whole bunch of something that has to come apart, which happens unfortunately, but so far I've gotten away with just being able to use the Frankfurt Arsenal. But a bullet puller might be on your list of things you should have. Getting back on our list of upgrades, our powder trickler I did mention in the last video, but this did come with my kit. I don't want to throw it on the bus a whole lot. It does function. You can add powder to it. It does come out the end of the tube in a somewhat organized fashion. However, it's very light. It's very cheap. It leaks more than I thought it would. I just really am not impressed with the quality of the trickler. Some kits might not even come with one. But I know for not a whole lot of money, depending on what the sales are and what the price is, somewhere in the ballpark of $20, you can get a much nicer powder trickler. This particular unit is a Lyman. This is cast. It's on a metal base. This unit is significantly heavier. You can actually change the height on this. And so instead of, if you see any videos where people are stacking their powder trickler on top of different things, depending on the height of your scale, this very well likely might be high enough. You'll be able to have it right on your bench, have your scale underneath it, be able to have your powder pan under there, not worry about having to have no room to bump it or have to stack it on something that you have on your bench. It's a much cleaner setup. and certainly a much better alternative than the powder trickler that came with my kit. For somewhere in the ballpark of 20 bucks, if you use the trickler, it's a great upgrade for your reloading bench if you don't have an upgraded one already. Those are some items that came in your kit you might want to replace. Certainly on the list of relative upgrades you can make, there are a couple things you might want to think. A brass prep station is one of them. Brass preparation is by far the worst part of reloading, at least in my opinion. It's what actually stands between you and being able to load your ammo. Got to do your brass prep before you can load it, so the faster you can accomplish it, the quicker you can get back to the range. A unit similar to the Frankfurt Arsenal Platinum Series trim and prep station might be something you might want to consider. For somewhere in the ballpark of $160, you can significantly speed up your steps and hopefully maintain at least some reasonable consistency from round to round. I mean, full disclosure, I don't actually own one of these, but if I hadn't already had a Girard trimmer, I probably would have. I've heard good things about them. I know that once they're set up, you can drastically improve your throughput, which is something I wouldn't hesitate to do. But if something just like the Lee case gauge and shell holder system to trim your brass and using a standard deburring tool is more down your realm, then by all means, go that way. A lot of things are going to depend on the overall volume of brass that you would like to reload and how quickly you want to do it. I'm not aware of a kit yet that doesn't come with a funnel. The standard funnel that comes with your kit, it does work for most things. You can get a lot of different funnel options for not a whole lot of money that can make your life a little bit easier. There are caliber specific funnel options like this one from Lyman that you can get. This kit isn't a whole lot of money. It's not going to have the static issue that your plastic one is right out of the gate, but you have to decide if you're interested in that. One other funnel that I did want to talk about that I didn't mention before was this Forster long drop tube. This is one of the items that I can't find on Amazon. I believe it's available on Midway, which I can't give you guys a link for, unfortunately, but if you Google it, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. What this is honestly good for is loading extruded powders. If you're loading something like Reloader 16, Reloader 26, H40, 350, any one of those extruded powders and you're getting anywhere close to a compressed load, meaning your projectile is actually starting to compress those kernels of powder, this is going to be of benefit to you. When you actually dump the charge in the funnel, and I have a video on that just so you can see the comparison. I believe I do a demonstration with Reloader 26 on that. You can get a significantly more powder in the same case volume by using the funnel and drop tube combination. By using the drop tube, those kernels organize themselves better as they go into your case, and there's more room and less crunch for your compressed loads. I know that my 135 grain Burger Reloader 26 load, I have to use these to be able to get that bullet seated in the case without over compressing the powder. It's just something I need to have. And for $18, it's not too much to ask. But any drop tube is going to provide this function. It just has the funnel with the drop tube, and it's very convenient. So guys, not something that's really an upgrade for your kit, but more than likely calipers didn't come in your kit at all, and I mentioned those in my last videos. You need to have a reasonable quality set of calipers. If you want to take some measurements, be able to take some more interesting measurements using a bullet comparator or a headspace comparator, I have separate videos on these which I can link in the description box below. These tools are going to be able to measure how much you push your shoulder back when you're full length sizing your brass, or the bullet comparator allows you to take your CBTO measurement rather than cartridge overall length measurement. This is going to come into play when you're loading hollow point bow tails versus like a polymer tip. The hollow point bow tails tend to vary just because of their construction. A much more accurate way to measurement is with this tool and record your CBTO. Certainly have other videos on that I'll link in the description box below. One other thing to really up your game, if concentricity is one of your concerns, I actually take the expander ball out of most of my dies when I use them, and I rely on a Sinclair expander mandrel to actually set the final neck diameter inside the case. I have another video on that I'll link below if you guys are interested in checking that out. This tool works very well. It's very consistent, keeps my neck tension extremely consistent, and I've got way better concentricity numbers when using this versus still using the expander device that comes with the dies. And so this is what I pretty much use across the board. So if you're thinking about something like that, check that video out. It's certainly an upgrade you can make, not necessarily a requirement, but if concentricity is something you've been struggling with, this is something to give a try. One more thing that I want to talk about, most of your kits are going to come with some type of a scale. A scale is certainly going to be something that's going to come with your reloading kit. Whether it works for you is something you're going to have to decide. Having a good set of weights is something I would certainly recommend to make sure you're confident in your scale. If I had 100 different options of scales to tell you to get, I would let you know. But I'm going to point you in the description box below to a video by Johnny's Reloading Bench if your scale upgrade is something you're considering. He just did a video comparing a ton of reloading scales. If you're not subscribed to him already, he's a great channel. Check out his scale video. It's really spectacular if you're looking to do a scale upgrade. I really haven't been happy with the Hornady scale. I did a video on it a long time ago. My kit came with the Gen 1. I purchased the Gen 2. As on, I've moved to a couple other different scales. The more reasonably priced one that I use isn't available anymore, so telling you guys what it is isn't going to help. But if you check his video out, I'll put links below to his scale video so you can check it out, and you guys can decide for yourself which scale you'd like to pick up. So even if you're not planning on upgrading your reloading tools today, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any comments or questions, please put those in the comment section below. If you like the content here on the channel, hit the subscribe button, turn the bell notification on so you get notified when I post next week's video. I hope to see you guys back next week, and until then, stay safe in small groups.